I'm joined today by the former Titan FC lightweight champion. He was also featured on season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter. You can catch his next fight on February 3rd. He'll be taking on Markel Medeiros. He is the man. Landon Quinones joins me right now, the lone wolf. Welcome, Landon. I'm a big fan of you.
Thank you, man. I'm a fan of you.
Well, I wanted to say, first and foremost, I introduced you as the Titan FC lightweight champion for a reason. That's how I found out about you. I've been watching your career for a very long time, and that's where you cut your teeth, and that's where you really put your stamp on this sport, in my opinion. And I just wanted to ask you, like, you fought some absolute killers in Titan FC. You fought Naimov, Acevedo, and Adewole. I think that's how you say it. Like, those guys were all super tough. And like you went out there and like you're putting away high level guys. I just wanted to ask you, when you think back about your time in Titan FC, was there like a fight or two that really like sticks out in your mind as like one of your most favorite performances?
Honestly, I think my fight against Yemi was one of my favorites because, man, obviously, like, wars are great, and when you win wars, like, you definitely feel good about it. But the thing about Yemi is I felt like everything came together so well that, like, it was one of those fights that just felt perfect. Like, you're in the Matrix. Everything you train goes perfectly. Everything you worked on is effective. The timing is perfect. You know what I mean? Your defense is good. My movement was good. My defense was on point. My power was sharp. I felt like I was kind of in the Matrix for that one. So I feel like that was one of my favorites because it was the one I felt like I made the least mistakes and was the most flawless. But I like the Acevedo fight as well because I came off a very long layoff. I feel like maybe that one. I feel like there's a tie between those two because that one I came off a 2-year layoff. 2 years no fighting from ACL surgery. Also the incident when I had COVID on the Contender Series. So I was in a really dark spot in my life, and coming back to go win a belt with no tune-up fight, 2 years of ring rust, and to go beat a guy in his home country and knock out a guy that ain't never been knocked out before, that was that athletic. He actually got a knockout at heavyweight after he fought me too. So that was pretty cool to know that I was capable of doing things like that. So probably a tie between those two.
You definitely put your stamp on regional MMA, and when you got the call to be on season 31 of Tough, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, it's about time. It's about time a guy like this gets an opportunity. And I just kind of wanted to like pick your brain a little bit about Tough. Nate Jennerman, he was on here not that long ago, and he told me, he was like, listen, like, the show's portrayed a certain way, but I'm going to tell you, like, my interactions with Conor McGregor and that coaching staff, like, I didn't get the result that I wanted on the show, but I gleaned so much from that experience. And I was wondering if you had a similar experience with Conor and Coach K.
Absolutely. The Ultimate Fighter itself was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. The isolation really affected me. The intensity and the tension of being in a house with potential opponents was really weird for me. Having cameras around you all the time was really weird for me. But people talk like Conor was a horrible coach or anything, but in all reality, our lack of experience was the thing that kind of bit us. You know, I feel like everyone in that show was super high level, but when you haven't been on a stage like that in an environment like the Ultimate Fighter is, because like you think watching it your whole life and going into it like, oh, you know what to expect. You don't know what to expect, so you're actually in there, man. So, you know, Conor was great as far as like answering all our questions. He didn't hold back anything he taught. You know, he taught me so many great lessons. I kind of figured how to do the little things, how to carry myself better. He provided all the resources for us. We got more gear than Team Chandler. We had great practices. We got access to all type of coaches, guest coaches. We had a nutritionist, massage therapy. We had everything. So he really went out of his way to help us and make this as easy and comfortable as a process of fighting and to be able to perform at our best that we could at the moment. So, you know, all that shit that people say Conor was this as a coach, like, it's TV, man, you know, and to be real, he's doing the best he can with guys that don't know his system and guys that don't train with him on the daily or that he hasn't known for more than a week at this point. You know what I mean? So, you know, I thought he was a great coach. I thought it was a life-changing experience, and I don't think I would have been able to perform or be in the UFC the way I am now without him, you know? I mean, I know I haven't gotten a win, but I feel like I learned a lot mentally, spiritually, and I feel like it really helped me upgrade and level up a lot, you know?
Well, here's one thing that he said about you, and I'm going to read a tweet that he wrote, and it was about you, and you probably know what it is. And I'm going to, so for people for people who are watching this, no, I didn't say this. Conor McGregor said this. He said, Landon Quinones is a gritty fighter who is tough as nails, always willing to learn and improve all facets of the game. He said that about you, one of the most iconic fighters who's ever done this. When you read that for the very first time, like, What was going on through your mind to know a guy of that caliber was saying those things about you specifically?
I mean, I was happy, man, because he's definitely a guy that I've looked up to for a very long time. Definitely may not be in the GOAT conversation. He is in the GOAT conversation as far as what he's done, but he definitely is the GOAT as far as having one of the most historic and successful runs in the history of the sport. So to have someone like that say that about me helps me feel like the sky's the limit for me. You know what I mean? This is just the beginning. That's another thing I learned from him, man. Like, I got to see what the most successful fighter in the world does for training, how he carries himself, what he, you know what I mean, watching how he eats, watching how he handles his recovery, watching how he drills on his own, watching, you know, all those things. I got to see how he warms up, how he spars. Like, those things were so beneficial, man, and it definitely felt a lot hearing it from a guy like him, you know, because he's someone I've looked up to for so long.
You go through that experience, you don't get the result, and it would be really easy to like feel emo, feel down for a little bit, like, oh man, that was my shot. I may not ever get another shot like that. And then before you know it, a few months after that, you're on the short list. You get a call like Nasrat Haqparast needs a dance partner. Like, was that something that you were anticipating? Did you know that, hey, if something happens to one of these guys, like, I'm going to be one of the first people they call?
Well, a couple things did come to my mind. You know what I mean? Obviously, I had a really shit performance on Tough. You know, I froze up under the lights. I feel like I've always been good at showing up in high pressure situations, but when you're on the Ultimate Fighter, it's a very stressful environment. From getting to know your opponents, it was hard to turn on that kill switch on Jason Knight. Plus, like, I felt like I was very nervous. But when you're mentally strong and you do this for so long, you know how to kind of bring your nerves down, right? But one thing I learned about myself is when I bring my nerves down and calm myself down, I don't perform well. One thing a fighter needs to do is embrace the emotions, embrace the feelings, because that's what makes you sharp. That's what makes this worthwhile. So I felt like on the Ultimate Fighter, I learned how to embrace all the emotions instead of downplaying. Because I downplayed it so much that I froze. Like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for it. So a lot of people were doubting me, saying this kid doesn't belong here. He got submitted in 1 minute. He shouldn't be here. And I respect that because I deserve that because I perform like shit. But in all reality, after going through that experience, I learned to embrace that. So when that happened, I knew I got TV time. I know aside from my lackluster performance on Tough, I have an exciting, fan-friendly style. I have a lot of finishes in my record. So I felt like the UFC was going to potentially use me. But in all reality, I wasn't banking on it. I was just more ready for the next opportunity. I was training every single day. I was working on the flaws in my game. I was doing a lot of jiu-jitsu. I was doing grappling tournaments. I was doing super fights. Win or lose, I was throwing myself in the fire and putting myself out there and trying to improve in all the areas that I felt I was weak at. And also, like I said, getting in the competition time just so I could practice embracing that fear and embracing that nerve and like dropping my ego and just not caring about wins or losses and just going out and performing to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? And when I got the call, like, I wasn't in exactly fight shape, but I was training so consistently, my weight was down and I was in good shape. But when you're fighting on that level and you're fighting a guy like Nasrat Haqparast, who's probably top 20 in the world caliber fighter, you know what I mean? A guy that has more UFC fights than I have fights. You got to be fully prepared for that. You know, you can be in good shape, but you got to be in great shape, and you got to be trained for guys like that. So obviously, I didn't get the performance I want, but I feel like if I was in better shape and I was like in a full fight camp for that guy, I think I could beat him for sure.
Well, you definitely had your moments in that fight. And I thought, you know, considering the totality of the circumstances, you put on a performance that you should be proud of, even though you didn't get the win. When you go back and you watch the tape, were there things that you saw that you're like, you know what? I did A, B, and C really good, and I'm really happy about that against a guy like that.
I felt like my footwork was really good. I felt like my kicks were flying real good. I felt like I was letting it go. I feel like I started a lot faster than I usually do in fights, so I was very proud of that. My speed was good, but I'm more focused on the things I did wrong than things I did right. You know what I mean? There's a lot to take away. I know I can be in a tough fight. You saw it when I fought Acevedo. Like, I know I can be in a war. I fought Naimov into a split decision, a hard-ass fight. Like, I know I can be in a war. I know I can give damage. I know I can take damage. But it's not about just being tough and being able to get in dogfights all the time. You know what I mean? I want to do things with finesse, and I want to be a lot better. Like, as far as maintaining my power throughout the fight, I felt like my power faded. I'm a pressure fighter, so in the beginning I was able to pressure Nasrat quite well. But as the fight went on and the fatigue set in, I felt like I was able to keep throwing punches, but I didn't have enough sting to back a guy like him up. You know, he's a super tough guy that gets into dogfights himself. When you fight a guy like that, you got to take the equation of toughness out. You know what I mean? I got to hit him hard enough to where regardless of how tough he is, he's going to have to back up to respect what I'm giving him. And I feel like I didn't have the energy to make him respect what I was doing. So that was like the biggest factor in that, as well as not answering quick enough. I feel like I gave him way too many free shots. And a lot of the factors that I've been working on now is a lot more sparring during the week. I've also been doing a lot more strength and conditioning, working on this power, working on my muscular endurance, trying to put on a little bit size for this next fight. So it's all about learning and growing. And I feel like from that fight, I know I'm capable of fighting at the highest level, but I'm fixing the issues that we had at the moment. So I'm just ready for the future, man.
Well, Landon, I think that you certainly proved in that fight against Haqparast that you do belong at that next level, and you showed that you can fight anybody in the world. And now we have a full training camp ahead of us. It's not a short notice situation. You have time to really dial in against Markel Medeiros, 8-1, powerful guy, a striker just like you, I would say, in certain respects. What do you see when you see Markel, and what do you think about this matchup?
To be honest, at this level, man, everyone in the UFC is good. Anyone that's gotten the UFC has gotten the UFC for a reason. You know what I mean? They're the best at their level. They're the best regionally in their area. They're champions. You know what I mean? They fought tough guys. They fought guys with good records. I think Markel's a good fighter. You know what I mean? But I feel like he has a lot of holes in his game that I can expose. In all reality, I don't think he's ever really fought a true striker. You know, I've watched all the guys he's fought. He's fought a lot of journeymen, and he's fought a lot of guys that are wrestlers. You know what I mean? The guys that he has fought that are good fighters, but they're not strikers. You know what I mean? And a lot of the things he does, people are very reactive. You know, and they even times when he's doing nothing, they're not aware of what they're doing, so they're very reactive to what he's doing. And I can read through a lot of those things, and I make reads very quickly, and I make adjustments. I fought guys with super high level experience. When the going gets tough, I can push. I think I have all the tools to beat him. And to be real, like, I'm not underestimating him. I'm anticipating a war. But if I show up my best self and show up the way I know I can be and the way I know I am, I think I can finish him and get that bonus. So, you know, I'm just ready. I have a lot of respect for him. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk shit about the kid because, like I said, everyone in the UFC has something they're fighting for, man. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have something that separates you. And, you know, I feel like I have that X factor that separates me. I'm fighting for a lot more than myself. I'm fighting to inspire the world. I'm fighting to show that kids that come from nothing can be something with themselves from little opportunity. I'm fighting to change my life, my family's life. One fight in Australia, getting fucked by the taxes doesn't make me fucking comfortable. My bills aren't paid. I'm not fed yet. You know, he might be hungry for a win, but I'm fucking starving for a win. So come February 3rd, I'm going to show the world what I'm made of. And I'm going to make a statement at this level.
Landon, I think that this potential matchup with Markel has a fight of the night written all over it. I know exactly what you bring to the table. I have a pretty good idea of what he brings to the table. And this is an opportunity to really, like, let the fans and let the people all around the world know kind of what you're about. If they missed out on that Titan FC era, they're going to have a pretty good crash course of what it is you're really capable of here on February 3rd. And I'm sure you're excited to show that.
Absolutely. I'm going to give my all. I'm going to leave my heart out there. I always do. And, you know, he's a good fighter, but he ain't good enough to beat me. And that's all I got to say.
Well, perfect way to end my interview with you would be to give you an opportunity. If there's anyone, sir, that you'd like to thank or any sponsors we need to shout out, let's do it.
Shout out to my manager, KO Reps, Oren Hodak, my team, MMA Science Academy, the Pack Fight team out of Sunrise, Florida. We need some lightweights, so any pros willing to train or want to come through, get some work, just shoot me a DM. Let me know. Follow me on Instagram, Lone Wolf _145. I'm not a 45er anymore, but, you know, that's my handle. And, yeah, man, I'll see y'all February 3rd in Vegas.